Welcome back to the Here and There edition of Radio Chatskill. I'm Barb Demarest. One of the Halloween-themed events that piqued my interest is called Murder and Mayhem. It's taking place a week from tomorrow at the Art Center in Shahola, Pennsylvania, right across the river from Barryville. And talking to Nick Rose, who's the director of the Barryville Area Arts Association, and author, poet, and illustrator Paul Plumadore from Myelinville.
Correct.
Who has just published Anomalies, which is subtitled An Offbeat Alphabet. And you're going to be doing a program next Sunday, the 27th, at the Barryville Area Arts Association in Shahola.
Yes, we're looking forward to it.
So let's start off, Nick. Tell me about the event. What do you have planned?
Well, we have two local authors with books hot off the presses that have kind of macabre subjects, so we thought it would be good for October. Paul has this fantasy, poetry, collage, artsy effort, and then another author, Kevin Owen, has a serious, scholarly, intellectual research piece. And it's, I think, great to be together because we'll include a big audience and have a lot of fun. We're also going to have a macabre art exhibit on display with classic prints that are in the same vein.
So you've got the two authors speaking at 2 o'clock at Shahola?
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the other book, first of all, Kevin Owen's Killing Time in the Catskills.
Well, it's about a real-life crime story. He had done a book before about the crime, and he wondered if there was any murders close to his house, and he found one within 20 miles. Her name was Lizzie Halliday. So by the time she was 29, she was marrying her sixth husband, who was her older employer. And they found him on the floorboards, dead under his house, a little while later. So after that, they investigated a lot of other things. And so he did a lot of research for that. And she was actually the first woman sentenced to death in an electric chair. But even that didn't stop her crime spree. I'll leave some for Kevin to say at the event, so I don't want to give too much away. But it was a spectacular trial in Sullivan County, so it really is of local interest.
So this is late 18th century, so right. I guess nobody around who remembers her.
No. No Facebook's post about it or anything.
They might not even be alive today if they did know her.
Right. It seems like I wouldn't want to have known her because some of the crimes really was for no reason. Like she lured two women to her house apparently and killed them for no reason. So it didn't seem to be any monetary motive sometimes or anything.
So the mass murderer of a far gone day.
Yeah, mass murderer, beginners, everything. I think she tried to do all of them, maybe in alphabetical order, like Paul. Every crime you could do, arson, battery.
Ouch. So, Paul, talk about your book a little bit. It's a combination of drawings and also poetry.
Well, they're collage, actually,
okay.
And I mostly work with 19th century material.
All right.
The book actually was started in 1986. I had just come through the AIDS crisis, and without being too macabre, everyone I knew died. And I took some time to just sort of withdraw from life. I was actually expecting to die myself, but never happened. And I got back into doing art, which I hadn't done in a while, and just started these very sort of dark images were coming out because I was grieving a lot. But then when I looked at them, I said, I have to lighten this up a little bit. So I looked for a way to find some black humor in it, and I started writing these little short, little vignette, little poems that kind of described what was going on in the image and tried to put some humor in it.
So these are little bios of your collages?
More or less. I made the collages first, and then I went back and said, what can I write here?
Who is this person?
Who is this person? Because I did them sort of stream of consciousness.
So these were all pure imagination. These weren't based on
total imagination and letting myself go.
Paul, can you read one of the poems?
So I'm going to read you B. B is for bulemic. Dressed in blue and apricot, she's sitting cooped up in one spot and never going any place, just sipping soup that's piping hot. In garments of brocade and lace, she savors every scalding taste. She's sitting in her best attire, curtained by her rare desire, certain in her costume royal, as each spoonful turns to fire. Sipping soup that's at a boil, her complexion starts to spoil. They satiate to satiate an urge she had to satiate 10,000 bowls of consommé while strapped into a bustier. With soup and pretty clothes to wear, she settled in her favorite chair, a burnt tongue and a scalded lip, a ruined face and ruined hair. Around another sip. Her appetite's a Mobius strip. Today she ate a giant crock, 10 quarts of boiling chicken stock. And when she couldn't keep it down, she said, "This soup's a stinking pox." She fled to change her soiled gown, then came back for another round. The way she ate the fatal plate, 'twas too late to regurgitate. In her emaciated way, she ate herself to death today.
Oh, my.
That's great, and there's 25 other letters.
They're not all that dark.
Talk a little bit about what these images look like.
Well, they're surreal. Again, as I said, they're 19th century, so you know what those sort of look is. There's a lot of, I mix a lot of like scientific imagery, early scientific drawings, into what are more like illustrative storytelling type images.
And what kind of materials get included?
Kind of materials. So
in the collage?
It's all paper.
Okay.
Well, there's animal imagery, there's human imagery, there's, like I said, there's like things from the sea. I like to take things and turn them into something else. So sometimes a person's head will be something that isn't even human, but it'll look like a person. So they're confusing that way. And they're hard to describe, apparently.
Well, in addition to being represented in your book, I think I saw some of these works in the flesh in the neighborhood recently.
You were probably at Rafters. So, yes, I have a show that opened on the 4th at Rafters with my good friend Pauline Glycolopoulos.
Being a restaurant bar in Callicoon.
Yes. And so being Halloween, we put together our darkest imagery. Pauline always does the decor for the Halloween bash over in Homesdale, the WCAA.
Are you still creating these collages, or is that something that...
I work every day.
But still in this kind of macabre vein?
Not always. I'm just finished making some pieces for the Sixes show or the DVAA, and they're very Beatrix Potter kind of feeling. They're light. I mean, because I juxtapose things, they often will confuse people or they have a sort of jarring effect, but they're not always dark. I've been doing a lot of work lately combining men and women and creating sort of these gender bending things. Some people will find that disturbing. Other people find it funny. It all depends on the person. I do tend to push buttons.
At the event on the 27th, you're going to be talking about your inspiration.
Well, I'll be reading.
Okay.
I'll probably read about, 8 poems or so, and then I'll do an answer and question. I'll talk a little in advance about how I came about doing it, because it was put away for about 87. I put the whole thing away, and it was only this year that I pulled it out and said it's time to finish this and do something with it.
And just published, you said this is kind of its debut?
This is its debut.
Fantastic.
I never thought I would do it, but here it is.